Good morning, everyone. Let's try that again. Good morning, everyone. Morning. Perfect. You got to give it to me. I just flew from Houston, Texas, where it's warm, right? Who does Chicago in January? When I asked Siri what the temperature was, and she said 32, I went and I asked Cortana, too. They both said the same thing. I was very upset. Oh, no, this is not warm, man. I live in Houston, Texas, where it is perpetually hot, and it has 1,000% humidity. It's awesome. It's good for your skin. I might not look it, but I'm 80 years old, so humidity is good for you. My name is Donovan Brown. I am a principal program manager at Microsoft. I am responsible for the DevOps vision on top of Team Foundation Server and on top of Visual Studio Team Services. So I work with people like James, who does mobile, and I figure out how am I going to rub DevOps on mobile? How am I going to rub DevOps on Docker and SharePoint and all the other things that exist as the technologies? And I figure out how Team Services and Team Foundation Server are going to ease the pains of doing that development on a daily basis. That is my job. The best way to get a hold of me is Twitter. It is the #1 way to get a hold of me and to follow me. If you have any questions about what we do, James and I are very active on Twitter, and we will answer your questions. If I don't know the answer, I just did it yesterday, I will add a guy to the conversation that knows the answer. You're talking directly to the product groups, the people who actually make the products at Microsoft. If you feel some of our competitors do something better than me, it's at Donovan Brown. I take challenges very, very seriously. The reason that I put the little competitive things at the bottom, the air hockey and the car racing, is just so that you know how competitive I am. If you honestly believe that Jenkins is doing something better than our build system, I need to know, because I will go make our build system better. I install Jenkins and Bamboo and Bitbucket and all the other type of products because I need to know what they do that makes them good so that I can make our products great. I take it very, very seriously. If you need help, definitely follow me on Twitter. I also blog quite a bit at donovanbrown.com, so you can follow me there as well. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to be talking about DevOps today. And I'm pretty proud of this sentence because I actually wrote it, and it is the definition that Microsoft uses, period. So if you go to visualstudio.com/DevOps, that's the definition of DevOps that you see. 30 days it took me to write that sentence. 30 days of soul searching. I've been writing software for 20 years. And then when a company that has 200,000 employees selects you to define DevOps for them, it's a lot of pressure. So what I did first is I reflected over my own career as a developer and said, why is DevOps the hottest topic on the planet right now? Why does everyone, we have conferences over it, books over it, products that are trying to claim that they enable it, but why now and not 10 years ago? And that's what I wanted to answer first before I ran off and tried to come up with yet another definition of DevOps, because trust me, there's dozens of them out there, right? Everyone claims to be the person who defines it. But I needed to define it for Microsoft so that I knew what our North Star was, what it is that we're trying to do every single day we come to work to enable DevOps for any language targeting any platform. So why is it hot now? I've been developing, like I said, for 20 years. I started off at a little company called Compaq Computers. Anyone old enough to remember that? I told you I was 80, right? I loved Compaq Computers, and we were back in the old waterfall days. Remember that, where you do all the requirements gathering up front? You go and you code for 6 months. You throw 6 months worth of bugs over the fence to the QA team, and they have 3 weeks to get it ready for production, right? And it's never what it was supposed to be. And I remember that world. And I also remember the world where when I was done with the software, I could go onto the production server and log in with my credentials. You guys remember those days? And then copy files around, change registry settings, do whatever you wanted to because you own that machine. And then the lights would go out, and the ops guy would get pissed off. Why is he upset? Because not only did you take down your application, you took down every other application on that server. And now he's getting emails and phone calls from the people whose other apps are now affected by the fact that you were on that particular machine. So what did you have to do? You had to stop touching the machine and start writing documents on how to install my software, and then give the poor ops guy a binary file and say, you now go install it since you don't trust me on the machine. My document was much worse than my software. It had gaps in it. It was very optimistic. I assumed everything went perfectly. And the poor guy starts, you're laughing because you wrote that same document, right? It's horrible. If you're a developer, you hate writing documentation. That's the definition of developer, right? Hates to write documentation. If you want to know how the software works, go read the software. That's how the software works. Why do I have to document it again, right? So we hate writing documents, so they're horribly bad. And the poor guy would go and try to install it. All the lights would go out, and everyone's still mad. So 10 years ago, what we had to fix was our ability to write software well, right? To deliver on time, deliver under budget. And how we fixed that is that we came up with Kanban and Agile and test-driven development and string programming and paired programming. And what this allowed our companies to do now was to produce value very, very quickly. Producing value and delivering value are not the same thing. Teams are now able to produce it, but there's still weeks or months from the time that the software is done to the time it's actually in the hands of our developers, or our users. And that's what DevOps is here to fix. I always joke that what we're going to do is we're just going to rub a little DevOps on it, and we're going to fix this distrust that has been built over decades of developers and ops people hitting head to head. So what is it? It's the union of people, process, and products to enable the continuous delivery of value to our end users. I can defend every single word of that. Why did I say value and not software? Because it's not just about copying bits to a server. It's about delivering value to your customers. And guess what? It's called DevOps. Ops people can actually deliver value without changing a single line of the application. It's about value. Okay, so let's say, for example, I have an e-commerce site who can only sustain 1,000 simultaneous users, and Christmas is coming. That's going to be a problem. But an ops person can go in and fix our infrastructure, scale it out, scale it up, and next thing you know, we can now do 10,000, 20,000 simultaneous users. That's value that was just added without a single line of your application being changed. So it's how dev and ops come together to deliver value. There's nothing I'm going to say to you today that you will not already know. I'm going to talk about continuous delivery. I'm going to talk about continuous integration. I'm going to talk about testing, and you're all going to be nodding like, yep, we all get that. But then I'm going to say, are you doing it in your organization? You're going to go, nope. We know it's the right thing to do, but we're not doing it. Why? Because of the people. There's someone in your organization that just does not believe. There's someone in your organization that's been doing it the same way for 30 years, and they've gotten successful in where they are in their career doing it the exact same way for 30 years. And now here we are telling them that they need to change. And it's hard when you're successful. When you're number one in your industry, doing it the way that you've been doing it, why on earth would you break something that's not broken? Fix something that's not broken. The people have to change. The reason you have to change is because your competition's already doing this, right? Uber just completely wrecked shop over taxis. Amazon did the same thing in retail. They were thinking differently. The other people were too arrogant, ignorant, or stubborn to realize that they needed to change, and now they're the ones playing catch up, that were at one point number one. You got to get your people to understand. The process, guys, that's the easy part. We already know how to do this. And what I do as a product manager at Microsoft is I try to produce the best products on the planet. And if I can do that, I believe I'm going to help you convince the people. Because if they just see a really slick piece of technology, that it's just obvious that's going to make my life easier, then maybe it's going to be easier to convince them that they need to start changing the way that they're doing their job, right? So to me, every time I say DevOps today, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so we're going to talk about a very special type of DevOps today, though. We're going to be talking about mobile DevOps, which I personally believe is the most difficult DevOps pipeline you're going to build, period. What I'm here to say, and I'm really happy to say, is that Microsoft's going to help you along the way. Why is it so difficult? Because mobile has so many unique challenges. Just the development of a mobile app is a challenge. Do I use Cordova? Do I use Xamarin? Do I do native? Do I go to Xcode, or do I go to Android Studio? Do I do it on a Mac, or do I do it on a Linux or a Windows machine? Just getting started with mobile scares you to death. And after you have your first line of code written, guess what? You got to go test it, right? Because it all starts with the developer checking in code, hopefully, right? He commits code to a repository. And what's really cool about Visual Studio Team Services and TFS is we offer you two different types. If you want distributed, which I hate, by the way, I think Git is the worst thing ever, right? If you like it, we got it. So don't worry about how I feel about it. As long as you love it, we have Git for you. Unlimited private repos, as much as you want. We don't charge you a dime for it. If you still like centralized, check in, check out, we got that for you too. But what's going to happen is the developer is going to check in code, and it's going to go into a repository. That repository should then kick off what we call a CI, or continuous integration build. We'll talk more about every one of these things. CI basically means I'm going to download the code, I'm going to compile it, and then I'm going to run some unit tests for you as well to make sure that it's good instantly, no longer waiting. I remember when I was at Compaq, we used to do a build every Friday, which means I wrote bugs on Monday, I wrote bugs on Tuesday, I wrote bugs on Wednesday, I wrote bugs on Thursday, and I wrote bugs on Friday, and then they would build it. Like, Donovan, you broke the build. When? Well, we ran the build on Friday. Yeah, now it's going to take me 2 days to figure out which week's worth of bugs I wrote actually broke the build. Had you told me sooner, I could fix it easier. That's what CI does. You check in code at 9 o'clock, 9:03 the build broke. Guess what? I know exactly what I was working on. It's really easy for me to go back in and fix that. That's what continuous integration gets you, okay? Then we want to run automated tests. And this is one of the scariest parts of mobile. Because there's so many freaking devices, right? So many shapes, sizes, operating systems, vendors. It's just nuts. And to be able to try to do this with what you have on your desk is impossible. And we're going to talk about really cool features that we have that make that really easy for you to do. And then you have to distribute it, which again is very painful when it comes to mobile. It isn't just putting the files on a server and now everyone has access to it, or they can go download it. It has to go through a store and get validated and it's just a nightmare. But we have a cool piece of technology that fixes this for you too. So luckily for you, you're coming into mobile, for those who haven't started, at a time where we figured out the majority of this stuff for you. To deliver value, you have to monitor the application as it's running in production. You can't just copy files to a server and pat yourself on the back like you delivered value. If I just added a new feature, but no one is using that feature, you did not deliver value. You just copied files to a server or downloaded them to your mobile device. But if no one is using that new feature, that wasn't value. Right? That was just an exercise of see if we could deploy these new files to a server. But to monitor the application, to see that people are actually using it, that's how I validate that I actually delivered value. And that's important information that I can then use in my product backlog to make sure that we continue to do things that are actually delivering value to our end users. Not only can we capture things like crashes and statistics, we can also get feedback from our end users. So they can pat us on the back and tell us about things that they like that we're doing, so that we continue to do more of that as well. We at Microsoft enable every bit of this for you automatically, and that's what I'm going to show you today. All right. I work on this team. We build two products called Team Foundation Server and Visual Studio Team Services. They are essentially two sides to the same coin. One of them you install yourself on-prem. The other one you host, or we host for you in the cloud automatically. They offer you everything that you need to turn an idea into a working piece of software. Everything. Work item tracking, bug tracking, test case management, source control, continuous integration, continuous deployment, package management, everything from one vendor, right? It's unprecedented. No other vendor on the planet gives you all of this. Many of them are trying to acquire and gather this stuff now, but if you're building a DevOps pipeline today and you're not using Microsoft, you have more than one vendor. I don't have to ask you any questions. I know that for a fact, because we are the only ones who have everything. Okay? Quickly, others are trying to gather it, but we're the only ones. Reducing the number of vendors in your DevOps pipeline makes your life easier, because every time you add a new vendor, you add a new tax. The tax is keeping that tool to talk to the rest of the tools that are already existing in your pipeline. And if you don't have us do it for you, then you're someone at your organization is doing that today. Right? So when you take build from this company and release from that company and something else from that company and you try to stitch it together, it now became someone's job at your organization to make sure that that pipeline stays the way that it's supposed to stay. That's time that they're not innovating on what makes you money. They're now innovating on tools that are supposed to be supporting you, and now they're actually a deterrent. So you want to reduce your vendor count, and we're one of the vendors that allow you to do that. Continuous integration, as I just described, is it gives you the ability to quickly find out if you guys are still on the right track or not. When people say, Donovan, we are so in the weeds on this DevOps thing, where should we start? This is generally where I say, right? Because I assume you already have version control. If you don't have version control yet, you're in a world of hurt, right? So my assumption is you already have version control. Otherwise, that's where I would tell you to start. Assuming that you have version control, you should have continuous integration. Every single time a developer checks in code, that code should be downloaded and built on a separate machine. Why a separate machine? Because if I've just added a third-party reference that I've downloaded onto my machine, and the code works great, but I forget to commit that third-party reference, or I forget to update my package files, then what happens when the other guy downloads it? It doesn't work anymore, right? It worked great on my machine, so building it locally on my machine does not verify that it isn't broken. It just means it's not broken on my machine. We've all been there. It works perfectly on my machine, right? My bosses used to threaten to ship my machines, because that's the only place where it worked, right? But if you have a check-in, go back and say, hey, I can't build this either, right? I'm on a clean Virgin machine. I downloaded the latest version of your software. It doesn't build anymore, and I can tell you this within a couple of minutes. So that I can go back and go, oh my God, I forgot to update the package.json. Oh my God, I forgot to update so-and-so. Let me update that real quick. The build is now green, and everyone on your team can safely do a get latest and continue to work effectively. That's continuous integration. Now, not only do we offer continuous integration, tied tightly into continuous integration are things like version control, which is where all the code comes from, so you commit to version control, and then we download it and we build it. We also do agile planning for you, so your bugs, your test cases, your tasks, your requirements. We can actually take that information and associate it to the code that you just changed, so that when a QA person comes and says, hey, what files did you change to fix that bug? You can simply say, go look at the bug, because it's actually attached to the files that I changed. So they can go back in and do impact analysis and all kinds of cool statistics on that as well. And then that obviously ties into our continuous integration. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to show you our continuous integration. Let me go over to a web browser here. So this is Visual Studio Team Services. This is just a dashboard that it'll generate, and I can actually create it for me. And this is a very mobile-specific dashboard. You can see I have a mobile CI running. I have Hockey app down here in the corner, which allows me to go to the distribution, which we'll talk about later, and release. So we're going to talk about all these different portions of it. But today, right now, we're going to go focus on our CI build. So this is just basically giving me a chart of how my build's been going over time. As you can see, I've had some fail, I've had some of them succeed, and if I want to, I can just basically drill down into one of these build definitions. Now, this is a build that actually executed, and I love how we have this nice surface area here that gives you everything that you need to know about that particular build. All the different tasks that we performed for you, and this really nice thing that says, hey, these are all the tests that we ran for you, which we'll talk about more in a little bit, what the results of those tests were, what work items, if you had associated any work items to this check-in that were associated here, how we distribute this over to Hockey app for you as well, and even take you to those test results so that you can see a really cool display, but I don't want to spoil the surprise. That's one of the cooler parts is our Xamarin Test Cloud, and I'll show you that here in just a second. And then even release management. But how did I get here? The way that I got here is I created something called a build definition. If the last time you looked at our build system was 2013 or later, or earlier than that, please look at it again. Right? We understand our build system was tough to use. It is not tough to use anymore, I promise, right? We learned from all of our mistakes. Like I said before, we installed our competitors' products. We saw what our customers and our competitors liked about those products, and we came in and we incorporated a lot of that into what we do as well. No longer are you hidden away inside of XAML. What we give you now is a little task list. As you can see here, I'm replacing some tokens in my iOS and my Android applications. I'm able to build them. I'm using Xamarin, which you'll learn more about in James' talk later today. That allows me to write code once, yet target all the different platforms. So I don't have to write it in Xcode and then go ahead and write it inside of some other language for Android and then yet another language for Windows. I write it once, and I'm able to build it and deploy it to all of the different platforms. I'm also able to use the Xamarin Test Cloud, which we'll talk about in a moment, to actually run tests during my build. So I'm not only verifying that I can compile the code, I'm verifying that the code actually works as expected before we leave the build altogether. And then I'm going to be using a piece of technology called Hockey app, which allows me to get early testers and individuals involved in giving me feedback and tracking their statistics before we actually push it out into the store. We can add as many tasks as you want. And we are basically ready to help you build anything. So if you want to do Docker, we're ready for you. If you want to do Android, if you're already, because a lot of you who are doing mobile, if you started before Cordova and started before Xamarin, you are doing Xcode and you're doing Android Studio. That's fine for us, right? This is a new age for Microsoft. This isn't the Microsoft that says if you want to play with us, you have to be .NET and you have to be on Windows, right? I have a Mac at home. Actually, I have two Macs at home. I have a Linux machine at home, and I have a Windows machine at home because I work at Microsoft. I actually installed Linux for the first time after I joined Microsoft. Did you hear what I said? After I joined Microsoft, I installed Linux for the first time. Right? It's a really weird time for us at Microsoft, but I love it because it's no longer just Windows. We all carry multiple devices. We all have to know multiple operating systems and even multiple programming languages because it's not just .NET anymore. Okay? So if you want to do Android, great. If you want to do Java, that's fine with us as well. Obviously, we're prepared to have you deploy all the way into Azure, whatever it is that you're wanting to deploy to. And these are just tasks. And these tasks, you just add them to your build, you configure a few items on it, and then they're ready to rock and roll. You can do anything that you want from any command line on Mac, Windows, or Linux. When you're doing a continuous integration build, the heavy lifting is done by something called an agent. The agent is the piece of code that gets the requirements and then goes off and builds your code for you. Our agent installs on iOS. Not on iOS, I'm sorry, on Mac, and it installs on Linux, and it installs on Windows. So whatever platform you actually want to build your application on, we're there waiting to do the build for you. And we had to do that because to build iOS, you have to be on a Mac. There is no exceptions to that whatsoever. So our agent installs perfectly there, and it runs there, and it's waiting for us. So I have a Mac Mini on my desk in Houston, Texas right now. If I issue a build, that guy wakes up and goes and builds my code for me for my iOS, stuff like that. So it's really cool. And if you don't see a task in here that you want, you have two options. One, you write it yourself. They're really, really easy to write. You can write them in PowerShell, or you can write them in Node.js, or you can simply go to our marketplace. And our marketplace is where vendors and companies and partners and even some of our competition have basically gone in and started writing extensions for team services. These extensions have build tasks in them. That little, remember the dashboard I showed you had the Hockey app widget? That is a widget that comes from an extension. So you install the extension, and all of a sudden you can build better dashboards, you can run cooler builds, you can do all kinds of cool stuff inside of Team Services and TFS because of these extensions that get written. Guys like myself, actually Tracheon is one of mine, and there's a lot of us who go and write these things to make everyone's life easier using Team Services. Okay? So don't think that you're stuck with what comes out of the box, even though what's in the box is great. You can obviously extend it to fit your needs as well. Okay? Like I said, it runs natively on Windows, Mac, or PC, and getting started with the build definition is really easy as well. So if I wanted to create a new build definition, that's a release, sorry. Go back over here to build. I'm going to show you just how easy it is to get started for any language targeting any platform. So if I want to create a new build, you can see that we have templates. So we actually know how to build Xcode. We already know how to build Java applications. So if you guys are using Maven, or you're using Gradle, or you're using Ant to do your Java builds, that's fine. Don't think that this is just for Microsoft stuff. That's really important to me, that you understand that Microsoft is now helping you do any language on any platform, right? So our CI system, I'm a big fan of it. I think it's fantastic. And that dovetails, that's kind of like the first domino that falls in the DevOps pipeline is that code getting checked in and that build kicking off, and then all this other cool stuff happens after. So let's go look at some of what the other cool stuff is. All right, this is the scariest thing in the world. This is just a representation of what it would be if you wanted to try to test on the landscape of devices that exist today on mobile devices. The screen resolutions, the sizes, the shapes, the OS, the manufacturers. No one in their right mind would try to collect all these devices to be able to say, we are now going to be able to safely run on what our customers are going to run against. We need a way to be able to do this, but no one in their right mind would try to collect all this stuff. What we have is Xamarin Test Cloud. Xamarin Test Cloud allows you to write tests, and I'll show you what one of those tests looks like. And then when you check in your code, you're also checking in the test that tests that code. We will upload those tests to this environment. These are physical devices. These are not virtual machines. These are not emulators. These are physical devices sitting in a data center. We have a partner that we have a partner called Perfecto Mobile. And before we acquired Xamarin, they flew me up to Boston so I could go see one of their data centers. It's the freakiest thing you've ever seen because you walk in, it looks just like a data center, just rack and rack and rack. But as you get closer, there's no computers in there. They're just phones laying everywhere with all the little USB cables on it. And I was just lucky enough to look down at one as a test kicked off. And you literally see the software install itself on there. It fires up, and you just see the application being exercised, and all of a sudden they uninstall it, and then they give the test results back. It's amazing. And we have thousands of devices sitting in data centers waiting to basically do your builds for you. And when I did my CI build, when you saw those test results, they were run in this test cloud. I said, these are the devices I want you to go find. Here's my code. Here are my tests. During my build, it went and provisioned those machines, like basically reserved them for me, installed my software on there, ran my automated test, and then reported back what the results were, right? So this is amazing technology that allows us to run these tests automatically. Manual testing and exploratory testing, you still need to do that, but you need to automate as much as you possibly can, and this is a great way to be able to automate your testing as well. So let me go take you into Xamarin Test Cloud. So if I take you back over here, and I can get there from my build again, which I really like as well, is that if I want to come through, let's look at our build. And from that build output I had, I don't have to go to the Xamarin Test Cloud explicitly. I can actually just come down here and click on a link that basically takes me right to the place I need to go to be able to see the results of my particular test. Oh, my mouse is screwing up here. So this is going to basically take me to Xamarin Test Cloud, where I can go back in and see the results of the tests that were run as part of my build. Now, I can run these as part of my build. I can run them as part of my release. It's completely up to you. What I really like about this is it tells me how many tests I ran, if they passed or failed, how many devices I used on them, the runtime, what the actual OSs were on the devices that I used, if I was using tablets versus phones, and I can even see if I'm like peeking out people's memory on their devices, or are we going to have trouble running on a small device that doesn't have a lot of memory right here from the heads-up display. I can then drill into a particular test that I executed, and you actually get to see the phones as they were actually executing your test. So if I wanted to go through and I had an error on a particular step, I could actually click onto that step, click on the phone, and see exactly what was happening on the phone. I didn't have it configured now, but you can even configure video to be recorded as the test is being executed. So instead of you having to go back and manually run it yourself, you can simply watch the video of the test being executed. But what I had it do instead was basically just take screenshots at every single step of my test. In addition to this, I have more statistics. I need to see what the memory usage was on this particular device, what the CPU usage was on this particular device. If I wanted to get more details on that particular device, to see if I actually have one of these physically in my personal collection of devices, I could go and see that so that I could go back in and try to fix this. And I think my resolution is going to kill me here. I don't know if I can close that thing now. All right, so we're going to go back to this side because I think I opened that up, screwed up my little thing there. And I'm also going to show you how quickly you can queue one of these too. So this is another view of that same information, run after run, letting me know how I've been doing over time. And let me jump back into this area. So I wanted to show you one more thing. I can go through every single step of it. And I not only have device logs, but I also have the test logs. So I can see every single step of the test that I took to get me to this particular point. Now, you don't have to run them as part of your CI build. If you wanted to come up and test on a specific device or a different collection of devices, you can simply say, I'd like to create a new test run. And then from here, we're going to walk you through a wizard that says, tell me what app you want to test. And then after you go through that app, my mouse is really messing up. I get to see all of the devices that I have. It knows that I'm dealing with an Android device, so what it's now presenting to me is everything that I can run against an Android device. Had I chosen an application that is iOS, it would be showing me iPhones, iPads, and things like that here as well, right? So I just want to give you an idea of the collection of devices that you can actually go back in and look at. We're really good at making sure that we get the devices very quickly, so if you need an iPhone 7, it's already in there waiting for you as well. So Xamarin Test Cloud allows you to be able to run automated tests against physical hardware and incorporate those results as part of your CI build. Okay? Very cool piece of technology. And then let's go back over here too. Continuous delivery. This is one of the areas of DevOps that I think I latched onto first. Before I joined Microsoft, I was a process consultant for 7 years. I essentially flew all over the world installing and implementing Team Foundation Server. And before I joined Microsoft, Team Foundation Server didn't do this, right? All they did was continuous integration, which means it would build the code, it would package it, but then it would just drop it like a hot potato. It's like, all right, this is as far as we go. And our customer's like, no, we need it deployed. We need it on servers. What are you talking about? This is as far as you go. We need more than this. But Team Foundation Server simply didn't have that. And I always felt bad when I left because I was like, man, I wish I could have done more for that customer. And sometimes we would bastardize their build and have it copy files to a server, but it wouldn't do approvals. It wouldn't then go back in and go from dev to QA and QA to prod. It could only ever do one. And what we needed was true continuous delivery. And when I joined Microsoft is when we acquired a company that actually had continuous delivery. And it was like, whoa, I could see how valuable that was because that's what I had been missing for 7 years is that this piece of technology. So big fan of continuous delivery. And that's where you're able to take the binary that you produced and then deploy it from one environment to the next. And then when mobile, it's very unique because it could be going from the Apple Store to the Google Play Store to the Windows Store. It could be going from your beta testers and your alpha testers to your stakeholders and then your user acceptance testing. And we're able to automate that entire deployment or delivery of your code using a product called Release Management, which I'll show you here in just a second. Another thing that's really important is being able to distribute the code to an individual user. And I have a sample app that I've written, so you'll be able to see this in real time. But that's where Hockey App comes in. And Hockey App allows us to be able to take a piece of software and deploy it to a mobile device without ever having this app show up in the store, which is traditionally how you get an app to a mobile device. It has to be in a store first. Person goes and finds it. They download it to their device. If you were wanting to do this before, you have to jailbreak your phone or put it in some special developer mode. You'd have to tether the phone to your PC, and then you would be able to download bits to it so that you could test it before it was in the store. But just imagine if you have testers all over the world. How are those testers supposed to be able to get the bits, and then it would be such a pain to have to tether their machines? So there was a company out there called Hockey App. And Hockey App had the technology that allowed us to do this, to be able to take beta bits and alpha bits and distribute them over the wire, like over the air, to people as if they were in the store automatically. And that's what I'm going to show you how that works here in just a second as well. I want to make sure I didn't go past, I didn't go past anything here. So let's go play with our continuous delivery from distributing beta builds. The application that we use to do that is called Hockey App. So Hockey App allows me to see all of my different applications, and also all the different versions of that application that I currently have in flight. Because just because I'm working on one version doesn't mean there aren't other versions out there still, right? People haven't upgraded their phones, they haven't upgraded their app. This gives me a heads-up display of all the different versions and even how many times one of them has particularly crashed or not. So I can know that this one version was really buggy, a lot of people were crashing. Luckily, we put out a new version, a lot less people are crashing that particular version, so it gives me a nice heads-up display for that as well. And it also allows me to determine who gets this particular version of the application. First, you want to go to your alpha testers, which might be a small group of individuals. Once they give their thumbs up, you then want to go ahead and do that, put that to your beta testers, which is a bigger group of users, before you then finally bless it and put it into a store. And we actually automate that for you as well. So what ends up happening here is hopefully this is going to work the way I want it to. I have an iPod Touch here on my screen. Is it syncing up correctly? Yeah, perfect. So this is not a simulator. This is actually a physical device. And People Tracker is a little application that I wrote years ago for a demo. And then I made it mobile once we acquired Xamarin because it allowed me to do that. And all it does is it allows you to track people. So you put people's names in there, and it'll let you track those individuals all over the world. And that is what's happening now because I have a new version of that inside of HockeyApp. So all the user has to do is try to use my application, and then they will be notified that, hey, there's a new version of this. Would you like to start testing that particular version? What I can do is go ahead and say, yes, show me the details of this. So the last time I did this, I was in New Zealand. It was warm there too, by the way, right? So I did this demo there where I actually was able to add middle name to an application who didn't have it before. It was really cool because not only did I deploy a mobile application, I had to deploy the back end as well. When people think about mobile, they have to remember it's more than just the app you're holding in your hand. There's databases, there's web services, web APIs. There's a lot of stuff behind what you hold in your hand that also needs to be built. It also needs to be tested. It also needs to be deployed as a unit. Right? Sometimes when I hear people talk about mobile DevOps, they only focus on the mobile part and not realize that there's an entire back end that supports that mobile application. And what's really nice about what I'm showing you here is it doesn't care which part it is. It'll deploy the entire solution as a unit. So the database goes, the front end goes, the websites go, and the application on the mobile app goes as well. Now, if I wanted to, I could go back in and I could update this app if I wanted to. But like I said, it's a very simple application. It just allows you to add people's names in here. And Chrome e-user, which is fun, is actually added by my automated test. Right? So that's why the name is weird, is because I was using the Chrome browser of the website that accompanies this mobile application when I ran automated tests, not only on the mobile device, but I ran automated tests against the website that is the sister to this mobile device. Again, the entire solution is being able to be deployed and tested as a unit, right? And that's where you get the Chrome e-user from, and obviously I had my name in there because I was just screwing around. So what I wanted to show you there is the ability for HockeyApp not only to monitor and track all your versions, but to be able to push those versions down to your testers as well. And we orchestrate that through our actual build. So let me show you that here real quick too. So if I go back to our build definition and I edit this guy, all that happened thanks to these last two tasks here. So all that magic of being able to put out a new version, check have all of its crashes, and then push it to a developer happened because I have those two tasks at the bottom. Those tasks identify the IPK that was created and the IPA that was created, or APK, excuse me, that were created, pushes them up to HockeyApp and says, hey, HockeyApp, I need you to distribute these for me to these select users, and then all of a sudden all this magic happens for you at the end. So as part of our build, we can go ahead and do that. We also have releases to where these two HockeyApp tasks might go to the alpha testers. Then in the release, we have the same task that says, now I want you to go to our beta testers. And that only happens after I get an approval from a user that says, hey, I would like my beta testers now to see this. I give it a thumbs up, and the system says, okay, great, I'm going to now tell HockeyApp, please distribute it just to a bigger group of people. So it's giving you complete control over the distribution of your mobile application. So that's distribution. HockeyApp is really, we acquired HockeyApp like 2.5 years ago, I think. And then we acquired Xamarin less than a year ago. I think we acquired them back at Build. So I always joke that Microsoft just bought mobile DevOps. We literally just bought all the pieces we need, and we already had the main core of it, VSTS, and now we literally have, from beginning to the end, we have Xamarin inside of Visual Studio for the developer. We have HockeyApp to distribute it, Team Services to version it and to build it, and then everything else you need in between Xamarin Test Cloud and everything else to get you a full mobile DevOps stack, which is really cool stuff. Release management. This product is the one that I was talking about that we acquired when I joined. I attached myself to this product when we bought it. I literally wanted to become an expert in it because, as I said earlier, I knew the value that it added to our pipeline. I started presenting on this product, and I honestly believe release management is why I stand here in front of you today because I obsessed over this particular product. And I've seen it mature and grow into what it is today, and I'm very proud of the product that it has turned into. It literally was the missing piece that made Team Services and Team Foundation Server everything that a company needs. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take you on a tour of it. What's funny is that it's so similar to the build that I don't have to spend a lot of time on it because we tried to make our build and our release very, very similar so that when you're familiar with one, you're automatically familiar with the other. You don't have to learn something new. It's not a new user interface. It's the same look and feel. It's the same user interface. It's even the same task that you were using in build, you can now use in release as well. Right? But the reason that it's a little different, I'll point those differences out for you. So let's go look at the differences between build and release. So if you go back to our build summary, like I said before, and I like the fact that I don't have to jump all around. I don't have to go to a different website. I can actually just go to my summary of my build and use that as my jumping off point to all the other value that is inside of Team Services and TFS. And if you're using TFS 2017, it almost looks exactly like this. It's like seeing double, right? The difference is that we update Team Services every 3 weeks. We update Team Foundation Server on-prem every 3 months. So that's the difference between the two products. So if you don't see it on-prem yet, but you see it in the cloud, wait about 3 months. And we're going to package it up, and we're going to push it down as an update, and then you'll get those features. We also have a website that you can go to that'll tell you exactly when those features are coming out. We're trying to be as transparent as we possibly can at Microsoft. So we're an agile shop. We are very transparent. Our roadmap is publicly available on our website. You can see exactly when those new features are coming, and when they're coming to the service, and when they're coming to the on-prem product as well. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm basically going to come down, and I can see from my build that there is a deployment that has already started, and that the first deployment section of it was successful. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click on release 21.12.11.01. And now it's basically bringing me to a similar dashboard that you saw on build, but this is for release. So if build and release are so similar and they use the same task, why do I need them both? And that's a really legitimate question. There are two concepts that release adds that build does not have. The first concept is an environment, right? Is a logical grouping of assets or resources that define dev, and define QA, and define production, or stage 1, or stage 2, or stage 3, however your pipeline looks. Build doesn't have that concept. Build downloads code, it compiles it, and it's done. Release has to then take those binaries and deploy them one after the other automatically for you in environment and environment. So that's concept number one that makes build different than release. As you can see here, I have 3 environments. I have a dev, QA, and prod. Dev has already been deployed 19 hours ago successfully, and I can go back in and I can look at the logs of this. Just like build, and I'll show you this in just a second, I have a series of tasks that I've selected need to happen to make sure that you actually deploy my application correctly. This is actually not only deploying the front end using Hockey app, but we have Docker containers involved in this. We have SQL Server inside of Azure involved in this. This is an entire solution being able to be built and deployed as a unit. So that's why you're seeing things in here like DAC pack deployments. How many of you guys are SQL Server developers? Anyone work with SQL Server? How many of you know what SSDT stands for? Only a couple of you guys, right? And that's the bad thing. SSDT stands for SQL Server Data Tools. Go search that as soon as you leave the room if you don't know what those things are. Because what I was able to do was change the schema of my database. It produced something called a DAC pack file. And then I gave that DAC pack file to release management. I can now point it at any SQL Server I want and say, go make that SQL Server look like it's supposed to. It writes all the SQL for me at runtime. No more me writing alter scripts. No more me trying to figure out, I got to concatenate my changes with your changes and make sure that we do all the changes correctly. Nope. All that magic stuff happens for you automatically. So SQL Server Data Tools plays really, really nice with our release and our build process, so definitely take a look at that. Sure.
You've got these different environments there that you production. Can you add them? Can you add one? So, for example, say you want to do internal release for integration, have an integration environment?
Sure. So what I'm doing now, that's a great question. So the question was, I see you have 3 environments, but we might have 4 at our company, or we might want to add another environment to our company. How can I do that to this particular pipeline? So what I've done is I switched over from the summary view of an existing release that was running to our edit view, which is like, okay, I now want to edit an existing build definition or a release definition. As you can see, this is where I identify the dev, the QA, and the prod. And before QA and prod, I might want to add a staging environment. So what I could do is simply say, I would like to clone this environment. Call it whatever I want. Sam Guckenheimer. We'll move Sam and put me in here instead. So this is interesting. This kind of helps me talk into the second thing that makes release different than build. What I'm typing right now is the second concept that makes release different than build. The fact that I can actually put people or groups as approvers before or after an environment has been deployed to. Right now, these are what we call pre-approvers. Let's imagine a story where I am the QA lead for an organization. So I own the QA environment. And I don't want every CI build, which could be happening every 5-10 minutes, to be pushed onto my QA environment because I'm in the middle of testing the current release. And if you do that, I have no idea what version of code is on my QA environment. And every time you push a new release, I'd have to start testing over again because I don't know if you've invalidated any of my test results. So what I would do is put my QA lead as the approver of that environment and say, if and only if that person says it's okay, are the tools allowed to deploy inside that particular environment. So this is where you're able to kind of put the brakes and put the control. Human beings should never, ever, ever deploy software, right? Never send a human being to do a machine's job, period. But there are times where human beings need to be involved in the deployment. And this is how we allow them to be involved, yet never touch the zeros and ones that get deployed. This is just me saying, hey, I'm about to go touch this environment. Is it okay? It is okay? Great. And this can be a group of people. This can be several individuals. And we have different rules on if it's approved or not. So now what I can do is just simply say, I would like to put myself in here as an approver. Okay. And now what I've done is I've created a copy of that environment. And I can just drag that environment up to here. And I can call this stage. And now I would be able to go and change these tasks to then go and target whatever it is I wanted them to target. So the machine names in stage would be different than the ones that they were in production. And maybe the configuration of the database or the passwords might be slightly different. That's where I would then be able to go and adjust those values. I would click on, for example, the database server. And here you can see the server name happens to be a parameter. So what I can do is simply say on the staging environment, I want to go configure my variables such that the name of the server for that particular one might have the word stage in it versus the name QA. So that's how I would be able to add additional environments and have the configuration be changed by the tools, right? If you're an ASP.NET developer, how many ASP.NET developers do we have? I love ASP.NET. How many of you guys have ever rushed in a hurry to change a web.config and screwed up your entire server? Everyone, raise your hands again, right? Because you've all done that, right? Because we're like, oh my God, in QA, the database needs to be a different connection string, or in prod, it needs to be different. Let me go in really quickly and change that. And there's a couple things that can happen. The best case scenario is that you leave off like an angle bracket and you get the yellow screen of death. That's the best thing that can happen, right? The worst thing that can happen is you put in the wrong connection string so that your dev is now pointing at production or vice versa, right? Horrible, horrible things can happen when you send human beings to do a machine's job. We can do all that tokenization stuff for you. So if your web.config needs to be changed, we have techniques in our release system that will actually change your web.config for you so that human beings never, ever touch it. But we understand values need to be different from one environment to the next. So does that answer your question? Perfect. So it's a very flexible system. And the two concepts that make release different than build are environments and approvers. You put those together, and now you have a really powerful system where you can build a really elaborate pipeline. And as you can see here, I'm deploying a database with DACPack. I'm deploying the website using, this is an ASP.NET Core website, deployed to Azure SQL and to Azure App Service. What's really cool there is Azure App Service has this concept called deployment slots. If you're not familiar with the deployment slots, they allow you to do a zero downtime deployment. If you've ever deployed IIS website before, you usually copy a file called something offline, takes the file, takes the entire website offline so that people don't get a 404, but they get a site that says, hey, we're updating it right now. You go and you copy all your files there, and then you take that file down, and then the site pops back up, right? But at some point in time, there's people not being able to do what they want to be able to do. With deployment slots, as you can see what I'm doing here is the deployment slot, is a slot is basically a version of your website in front of your actual production website, where you can take your time and deploy there without taking the live site down at all. The live site is still there. People are still doing their transactions. I take my time. I deploy all my code to the staging slot. I can even test against the staging slot before the production site's even affected. And then when I'm ready, I simply say swap them. The IPs just swap. There is zero downtime, right? Your users never know that they have just gotten a new version of your software. And that's what I'm doing there is I'm basically stopping a slot, deploying my software there, firing the slot back up, making sure it's good, and then I'm swapping them right in front of my users, and they have no idea. When I did this demo in New Zealand, people were using the app while I was deploying it on stage, right? So they literally, I changed the database right from underneath them, and no one had any hiccups, no errors, no nothing. This is really, really cool stuff. And obviously, I was using Docker as well. So one of them is the front end. Docker actually has a web service running inside of it for me. And I just threw that in there because I wanted to make the most complicated scenario I could to prove that I could do Docker, I could do Azure, I could do databases, I could swap slots, I could deploy mobile applications. Bring it. Whatever you want to deploy, wherever you want to deploy it, our tools are actually ready to help you deploy that. That same list of tasks that I showed you earlier is the same list of tasks that are available to you here as well. So anything that you can do and build, you can do in our release system as well. So release management is, again, it's the crown jewel in my opinion. It's the part that made our tools really, really great. And I just saw what we're doing with it in the next release, and you're going to be very, very excited about what we have there as well. We actually do have the Connect demo. So James and I were at a conference in November called Connect. We had this bike sharing app. That's the sample app. That entire app is in GitHub, right? So you can actually see that. This one is not, but if you tweet at me, hey, Donovan, can I see how you did this? I'll open it up for you for sure. The source code is in GitHub. So the source code for the projects themselves, that's a really good point. So you're saying, but what about the release definitions and the build definitions? How do I set that stuff up? Now, that is not there. It's documented on how you would go in and click through this. There's another product that I've been playing with, which I might actually have time to play with it and show it to you. It's called YoTeam. It's a Yeoman generator to where you just literally type the word YoTeam and say, I would like an ASP.NET application in Team Services with a full DevOps pipeline. And then I go do all that stuff for you. Right? So the tool literally just goes in. We're adding mobile to that. And we also have a product called Mobile Center, which James is going to talk a little bit about. It's basically going to take everything that I've shown you today. Right? So I've shown you CI, I've shown you Hockey App, I've shown you Test Cloud. And it's going to take all that and put it behind one face for you. That where you go and say, hey, I would like to create an app that looks like this. And then it does all that for you again. So you would be able to take our bike sharing app, give it to Mobile Center. It'll provision the Mac for you. It'll set up your CI for you. It'll set up your release for you. And you literally don't have to do anything but say, that's the app I want to build. So yes, it's coming. It's in preview right now. All right, so that is release management. Any other questions over release management? One more before we go.
If we had a DFS on-prem,
Yep.
how much of these possibilities?
Okay, great. So as of 2015 update 2, this release management, I believe, is on-prem already. Okay? If you upgrade to 2017, it looks identical. It's ridiculously good. When I was working on YoTeam, I wanted it to work against VSTS and TFS. So I had to install TFS, which I hadn't done in a long time. But after I installed TFS 2017, once it's running, it looks exactly like this. It's amazing.
But what about CD and CI? Do I get the full?
All of it. Yep, everything. Yep. So you get the same build, you get the same release, you get the same task. It's amazing, right? It's just 3 months behind. So like package management, I'm not sure is on-prem yet. But package management is just one of the features that we have in this tool set. But the build and the release, that's already there.
One other quick question.
Sure.
Is there an import process to convert existing XAML build applications? We have literally, thousands of XAML build applications.
So the question is there a way to import XAML builds into here? So where are you building them with today?
MS build on builds in TFS. So we have continuous integration and continuous delivery to our data environments.
Yeah, but I don't know why you would have to then, unless there's XAML-based builds,
Yes,
there's XAML-based builds. Gotcha, okay. So there is no port from XAML-based builds to our new build system. But we still support our XAML-based build system, so there's no reason for you to have to port them. Yeah, if you upgrade, they just still work. We even support them inside of our XAML. So if you have XAML-based builds, you don't have to port them. They're just going to continue to work. But obviously, you see some of the benefits of this new build system, and you might want to move them over. But unfortunately, I don't know of any way to just say, hey, take that XAML build and switch it. It's so drastically different, right, the technologies. Any more? All right, so we'll go back to the slides here. And I think we're going to be able to do a lot of Q&A here in a second anyway. So we talked about releasing and the fact that we can do different environments. I even showed you how to add an environment very quickly. 2 concepts are environments and approvals. So continuous monitoring. This is where we have to go back in and decide, did we deliver value? If you added a new feature to your mobile app, no one's using that new feature, you did not deliver value, in my opinion. All you did is you copied a new version to their file, no one's using it. But you can't just guess. You need to have telemetry, you need to have numbers, you need to have metrics that say, did we or did we not deliver value? And that's where Hockey App and Xamarin Insights come together. Those 2 products allow you to have custom telemetry that says, did someone click that button? Right? When they went to their shopping cart, how many items were in the shopping cart? What was the quantity of the dollars? And if they abandoned it, was there something we could have done to make them go back and buy that? Should we have sent them an email with a promo code in it? Things like that. Those are the type of experiments you can run if you're collecting telemetry. If not, you're just guessing. Right? I think people are using it. I heard through the word of mouth. I saw someone tweet about it, so someone's using it. No. I want to know, did we deliver value? And that's where the telemetry comes in. But it's more than just about monitoring telemetry. It's also about monitoring crashes. Team Services is a 24/7 service. and we have to keep it running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We have a lot of telemetry that will actually let us know something's happening before you know that something is happening. And that allows us to make sure that we are able to keep that service running and keep a really high level of customer satisfaction because we're able to start seeing that telemetry. So monitoring is more than about, did I just deliver value, but do we have a problem out in production? Did we just ship a version that's causing people's phones to crash, and how quickly can we go back in and fix that? Because you don't want the first time that you know that your app is crashing to be an email or a complaint or a 1-star rating in the store. You want to know ahead of time so that you can be proactive and go back in and start fixing that. And I'll show you how we can do that with Hockey App as well. So Hockey App gives you monitoring of the sessions, how many people have downloaded what versions, how many crashes that you have in each particular version, and even gives people the ability to log those bugs directly from within the application. So they don't have to have an extra effort. They don't have to go somewhere special to go log these problems. And I put a bug in this application just so I can crash it and show you exactly what that experience looks like as well. So let me go crash my mobile app, which is a weird thing to say during a demo, and show you exactly how we can report that crash back to the users and stuff. So if I remember correctly, if I go to try to create something here, and I click on cancel, it's just going to crash my app. So the app just blew chunks, unhandled exception. Now, when I start the app up again as a user, what happens is that they detect that, hey, you didn't quit correctly. Would you like to send this report? I'm going to ignore this one here. So it says, hey, would you like to send this report to the team so that they can actually go back in and diagnose this and fix this for you as well? I can say send the report. And what it's doing now is in the background, it's emailing a crash dump to a Hockey App. And then Hockey App is able to use the symbols that I have and symbolicate the stack trace and let me quickly diagnose what caused that person's file to crash, what file they were in, and let me go back in and try to make a fix and then push that through the pipeline as well. So if I go back over to Hockey App, which I should still have up here, you can see that I have all these different crashes. And matter of fact, one of these crashes should be from today. So when I was in the speaker lounge, I actually crashed it a couple of times to make sure that everything was working correctly. And this is, matter of fact, this one says 12:20. And as you can see, it's 12:21. I don't know if you can see my clock on there. So this is literally the crash that I just did. It's already in Hockey App there so that I can go back in and start looking at it. Another thing I wanted to show you is that this one has a status of open, and this one has a status of tracked. The difference is that when this first one happened, I'm able to connect Hockey App to Team Services. Remember I said Team Services has bug tracking and all that kind of stuff in there? So literally I was able to say, hey, I want you to take this crash and create a bug inside of Team Services for me so the dev team can see this information without having to come to Hockey App to get it. So now there's a bug inside Team Services that I can go back in and fix, and I have access to all this information inside of here as well. So let's just go ahead and look at this particular item. You can see every single time it's been crashed. And if I go in here, you can see I have a null reference exception here. I can see how often it's been happening so that I can see how bad of a problem is this, right? How frequently are the users that are using our application actually being affected by this? What OS it's being happening on? And I can go back here and even see a stack trace of exactly where I was in the code when this exception happened. Because this is really important stuff. Because we've all gotten that bug report that we can't duplicate. And we've set breakpoints all over our code, and it's never where we expect it to be. Now I know at least where to set my breakpoints. I have some idea of where in my application the problem is so that I can go back through there and try to figure out what was going on. So this is, like, again, incredible information, especially in the mobile marketplace. I think that's the most fierce market that we have right now. At any given time, there's at least half a dozen apps doing the exact same thing in the App Store at any given time, which means if you crash my phone, I am very unforgiving. I'm going to uninstall you, give you a 1-star rating, I'm going to go install your competitor instead, right? And then your rating is accrued forever because I decided to get upset at you because you crashed my phone, and I have so many other options. If you're the only option, your quality could be in question. I'd have to grin and bear it. But when there's half a dozen, 2 dozen solitaire apps out there, crash me once and see what happens. I'll be playing someone else's solitaire before the plane takes off, right? That's the world that we live in. So you got to make sure that if stuff like this is happening, you are able to respond to it as quickly as you possibly can. Continuously deliver value, right? That's the goal here. And Hockey App goes a long way of making sure that we have the ability to diagnose these problems for you and send the information over to our dev team and wire this up with the tools that our dev teams are already using. So they're using Team Services, they already talk to each other for all that information as well. So what did we get? So I went through that a lot quicker than I thought I was going to. Make sure you start with a foundation inside of a good source control system, right? If you're paying for Git, stop paying for Git. We give it to you for free. Right? So if you're paying for GitHub Enterprise, or if you're paying for any type of Git repository, we give you the exact same Git for free. Everyone can go to visualstudio.com right now and create an account absolutely for free. Like, there is no credit cards, there's no dollars and cents, just go create one and you can start doing exactly what I did. You can start creating builds, you can start checking in code, and you and 4 of your buddies can go jump onto that account for absolutely $0 and start using it, okay? Now, the larger your company, we already start charging the 6th guy, right? But the first 5 guys, absolutely free. If any of those 5 guys have an MSDN subscription, they're extra free. They're like double free, right? Because we don't count them against the 5 that we are going to start charging you for. So if you and 5 of your buddies all have MSDN already, no one's paying for anything, and you can add 5 more guys who don't have MSDN, have a team of 10 for absolutely $0, okay? And again, stop paying for Git repos. It hurts me when I hear people paying for Git when we give it to you for free. And so what we want to do is obviously give you automated builds that you can build anywhere that you want. Our build agent, a guy got it running on a Raspberry Pi. Literally, anywhere you want to be building, we can build it there for you. Please remember that Microsoft is any language targeting any platform, okay? That's really, really important for me to make sure that you get. And I think I will have time. So on that note of any language, any platform, let me see if I can fire this thing up here for you real quick. Can you guys see that okay? So I'm going to type in Yo Team. So I was in a meeting with Scott Guthrie. Scott Guthrie is like one of our fearless leaders. And he says, you know what? I just want to be able to type into a command line and have an entire pipeline done for me. I don't want to go clicking through the user interface, right? It's like, okay, I think we have the ability to do that. Why do we have the ability to do that? Because everything that I just showed you inside of Team Services has a REST API backing it. Everything. Same thing with Mobile Center. They actually have to write the API before they're allowed to write the UI, right? To make sure that everything can be automated to any extent that you want. So what Yo Team is asking me now is, where do you want to go? TFS or Visual Studio Team Services? Because I can take you to both. So once you upgrade to 2017, you can do this, okay? And it says, okay, great. I need to know where you want to go. And one other thing I'm going to do here, because I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm going to do it now, is I'm going to load up this little file. This is my little secret, my secret to all those who want to do presentations. What you want to do is create something called auto hotkey. So now I should be able to do stuff like, say I want to go to my demos, and then in a second here it's going to ask me for my token, and watch this. I'm going to type a really long string here. That's auto hotkey for all the presenters in the room, right? Download that. You can tell it to type whatever you want. You just give it a key shortcut, and it types it for you. So what it's doing now is it's actually communicating with my Team Services account. It says, okay, I know you want to go to my demos. These are all of the agents that I found inside of your account for you. And I see there's one called default, hosted. We not only have hosted, but if you know at the bottom, we have hosted Linux agents as well. So again, I'm kind of deviating a little bit from mobile, just talking DevOps all up. If you want to build on Windows boxes, you don't even have to install our agent anywhere. We have in Azure already Windows machines with our agent on it, just waiting for you to give them something to do. Our customer said we also want to do this on Linux. So if you look at the bottom, it says hosted Linux agents. So now we have Linux machines in Azure just waiting for you to give them something to do. So when you create your free Team Services account, you get these 2 pools absolutely for free, just waiting to do your builds for you. If you need Macs, things get a little bit different. Team Services, you just stand up your own Mac. We give you what we call one private agent for free. So stand up your Mac or your Mac Mini, put the agent on there, register them, and then you'll have one like mine that says Macs on it, right? Absolutely $0, 0 cents. Now, if you go to Mobile Center, we'll do the Mac part for you, right? So you don't even have to worry about the Mac at that point. So let's go ahead and do default. And then this is where we're starting to grow into different languages here. If I wanted to do ASP.NET Core, if I wanted to do Node.js or Java, I'm working with teams out there. I don't know PHP, so that's why PHP isn't in the list. These are the 3 languages I knew well enough to where I could put into the tool when I wrote the tool. If you know PHP, this is completely open source. Go to GitHub, search for me, you will find this application, and you can add PHP to it. I'll help you build the pipeline, you help me with the language. I want Go in here, I want Python, I want everything in here. Because what I'm going to do for you is build the entire pipeline for you. So now we're going to say, let's just do Node.js. And I want to call it Node.js or Node demo. Now, I even let you choose, do you want to go to Azure or do you want to go to Docker? right? And eventually I want this to say AWS. I want it to say Google Cloud. I want it to say wherever you want to go, I want you to be able to just choose this is where I want to go. And what we do in the back end is we build the build and the release for you, wire it all the way up to your target, and all you have to do is push the code into wherever you want it to go. So let's just go to Azure App Service. It's now querying and saying, okay, if you want to go to Azure, let me go see all the Azure accounts that you have access to so that I can then go ahead and wire one of those up for you. And now it's basically saying, do you plan to do development on this machine? If so, I'll go ahead and run Bower for you and NPM and all the other tools you need to reconcile all of your dependencies. I'm not going to do that now, so I'm just simply going to say no. What it's doing now is it's going off and says, okay, great. I'm going to go to your team services account and create you a team project. I'm going to then go in there and create you a Git repository. I'm going to then go ahead and create a CI build. I'm going to create a continuous release definition for you. I'm going to wire it up into Azure. And I'm even going to give you a sample application that all you have to do now is push into your repo, and all that stuff just lights up automatically. So what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and log in.
Is there any way to get around this permanently? Always using the same machine?
Yes, you can actually, when you're using Git, you can fire up what they call the Git Credential Manager, to where you log in once and it'll remember that for you forever. Right.
This is insane.
Multiple times. So make sure that you upgrade to the latest version of Git, because the Git Credential Manager is part of the latest version of Git. So just go to the normal git-scm.com, I think it is, or org, whichever one. Just download it and install it, and you're only going to get challenged once. And then it's going to store your credentials, and then from then on, it's going to be great. It's absolutely for free. It's absolutely for free. Because trust me, I feel you. So let me type in this big, crazy password I have. Hopefully that went in correctly. So what it's going to do now is it's literally cloning my repo, and then it's going to go off and start saying, hey, it looks like your repo's empty. Don't worry, I'm going to put some code in there. And it's doing all this stuff for us. We're adding mobile to this experience as well, right? So you'll be able to say, hey, I want to do a Xamarin Forms application. Fine. Choose Xamarin Forms. We're going to basically build everything for you so that you don't have to do any of this stuff yourself. Any language, any platform. That's the reason I wanted to show you this real quick, is that we have Node in there, we have Java in there, we can go to Docker, we can go to app services. Whatever you guys are wanting to do, we're actually here trying to make sure we make it easy for you. You never have to see the user interface if you don't want to. It basically does everything for you. So while that runs, I'm going to go back over to my slides. But I wanted to show you that as far as, because when you ask the question, are the build definitions and releases in there? And the answer is no. Now they are, right? This is the tool that puts all that stuff in there for you. So I think I have a node. Nope. Node demo. Where's my node demo? There you are. So I just do a git push. So it already did a local commit to my repo of the code. So all I'm doing now is pushing it to, my local repo. Now I'm just pushing it to the remote. And there's a CI build actually already running. See if this is on there or not. Now this is, I was also working on, 13 minutes left. Okay, I'm going to tell you, do something else for you here real quick. How many of you guys are PowerShell junkies? Any people like PowerShell? A few of you like PowerShell? All right, so I'll give you a second on my next pet project here, D. So I like PowerShell too, especially now that it runs on Mac and on Linux. Who was open source and worked on Mac and Linux? A few of you guys. So you can run PowerShell on Mac and you can run PowerShell on Linux as well. So what I started working on was something called TFS PowerShell, which allows you to basically do anything that you can do from team services from a PowerShell as well, which means we can even further automate some of the stuff that you want to do. So if I do an import module here, and the module's name is team, and then if I do a git command of module team, just give you some idea of what's available to you. So you can basically go and queue another build, check the status of a build, approve a release, and all that other kind of stuff that you want to do. This will be open source here in just a couple of days. I'm still polishing the code. Once it goes open source, you got to make it look pretty, right? You can't let everyone know all the nasty habits that you have. So I'm polishing it, making it look really good, so I can open source it and you guys make you think I'm a genius when I program. But it's getting there. But this version right here allows you to get all the projects and get all the builds. And if I get team info, it'll allow me to see what account I'm already. Oh, so great! I'm already attached to that account. So if I do git project here, it's basically going to go and list all the projects that I have inside there. And you can see there's a new node demo project there. If I set this as my default project, I can now do things like git build. And when I do a git build, I should see that there's a CI build automatically running. So if I do git build, that's the build that was just queued because I checked in my code, and as you can see, the build is already complete. So now what I should be able to do is call get release, and I should see that there's some releases running as well. So this release is a release definition that was queued by the build thanks to the fact that I did the commit. So I didn't even leave the command line. I was able to create a project, create a team project, create a build definition, a release definition, an entire pipeline, and actually trigger it all. And now with PowerShell, even be able to monitor where everything is actually going inside of a PowerShell. And this works on Mac, it works on Linux, and it works on Windows. YoTeam and PowerShell works everywhere. Right? So the only reason I showed you all this is because I said the words any language, any platform, and I'm trying to make sure you guys understand that I'm serious. Right? This is not just playing around. All right, so any language, any platform. I hope you believe me now that we can do any language, any platform.
You said YoTeam is on GitHub?
Yes, so I can show you that. So you don't even have to go to GitHub to get it. So if you have Yeoman installed, you can just type Yo, and then what you're going to do is it's going to ask you to install a generator here, and just search for the word team. And a couple of them are going to come up. You'll see that there's YoTeam, YoTFS, and YoVSTS. YoTeam is the successor to the other two. I wrote YoVSTS. People wanted it on-prem, so I wrote YoTFS, realized how similar they were, and then I basically made YoTeam. And YoTeam is a lot better than the other two, because when you write it for the third time, you're like, okay, I'm not going to make the same mistakes I made the first two times. It's much, much better. So if you're interested, I would just install YoTeam. Don't worry about the other two. You don't need them. Okay, they'll be deprecated soon. But it is also in GitHub, so you can see all the code, how I wrote it, and everything. Okay? So yes, it's there for you. And I don't need this anymore as well. So basically, DevOps is going to make your life in mobile easy, right? And Microsoft is already here at every aspect of the DevOps pipeline to make your life easy. From development, which James will show you later, from continuous integration, continuous delivery, from monitoring, from distribution to testing. Microsoft is here at every step of your mobile development to get you there. From Git or Team Foundation Server version control, build on Mac, Linux, or PC, automate on thousands of physical devices, distribute using Hotkey app directly over the air, monitor crashes, analytics, and telemetry, and even collect feedback from your users. This is all enabled for you, and it's just, we've tried to think of everything we possibly could. If we are missing something, I'm at Donovan Brown on Twitter. I'm serious as a heart attack. James, if I don't know the answer and it's Xamarin-based, you're going to see James get added to that conversation like the next thing I type, right? So please come back in here and play with this stuff. We're really excited about what we have here at Microsoft, and hopefully you are too. So please at least go give it a shot. And if you aren't satisfied, that's where you need to reach out to us. This is not the Microsoft where we're in an ivory tower and we don't talk to our people. We are active on Twitter. We're active on social media. You can also use a website called User Voice. So you can go to User Voice, give us an idea, have your buddies vote it up, and when it gets to the top, our product team starts to take a look at it. If you have a strong Twitter following, you can do all kinds of damage. I do it all the time. Right? If I want something to be at the top of User Voice, it's only one tweet away from being at the top of User Voice. So just use that power that you have in social media to get your ideas to us here at Microsoft as well. So feel free to go and play with this stuff. We have a lot of information for it as well. And I am now ready to answer any questions that you have on pretty much anything DevOps related, mobile or not. But thank you so much for joining me.
Team services deploying to internal IIS servers?
Ooh, great question. So how do we take something that's hosted in the web and deploy to something that's on-prem? That's the question, right? That agent that I described that can run on Mac, Windows, or Linux can be installed anywhere, including behind your firewall, which means you register the agent behind your firewall to us out in the cloud, and it's just a conversation where he says, hey, is there anything for me to do? Yes, there's something for you to do. And then on your network, behind your firewall, it can do whatever it needs to do to get this stuff deployed to your IIS server without ever seeing the web. We had customers who said, we want to use release management in the cloud before it was on the on-prem product, but it's there now. But we don't want a single 0 or 1 of our IP to see the internet. Like, okay, fine. That's exactly what we did. We had Team Foundation Server on-prem talking to release management in the cloud with an agent behind their firewall. Not a single line of their source code or anything ever saw the internet. But we were able to communicate to that agent and say, hey, it's time for you to go do your deployment. It says, okay, the code that I need to deploy is on this side of the firewall, so let me go grab it from this server. Oh, and the server that you want me to deploy it to is also on my side of the firewall. Let me go to this IIS server and run whatever commands I needed to deploy that application. So the deployment completely happened on your network behind your firewall, but was orchestrated from the internet.
So you'd be able to have a server dedicated internally that communicates to team services, and then that can orchestrate everything internally?
Yep. It's awesome. Yeah, it's just ridiculous, right? Yeah, the answer is yep. So what other questions do we have? One more?
For that hockey app, when you have the bugs and issues, is there a way to have the users track those or push back like notifications to them?
Good question. So the question was, with Hockey app synchronizing or pushing data to team services, how does that information come back? It is actually synchronized, right? So there's a two-way communication between Hockey app and team services, and it gets better and better because we own Hockey app now, right? So they're literally a team in Redmond right next to the team that works on team services. So that communication just gets better and better and better as time goes on.
Phones, like if they're testing and stuff, is there a way for them to see the stats of it correctly?
Well, what will happen is that they're going to be able to get another update like I did that says, okay, these are the bug fixes that are in this particular fix, right? So what I was said in my example was I added middle name for you. So you don't just have to take an arbitrary release from us. You'll be able to see in the release notes, these are the bugs that we fixed, these are the features that were added, because we want you to go and focus on that when you play with it this time to verify that that bug has actually been fixed. Does that answer your question? All right, cool. I saw someone right here.
So with that pre-authorization or a release or however you can sign it,
The approvals?
yes, does that have to be what certain license level for that?
Oh, good question. So the question is, do you have to be a certain license level to be an approver on a release? The answer is even the stakeholder that's free can actually be in there, right? So yeah, you do not have to pay to be an approver of a release. And the approvers can be individuals or they can be groups, which is kind of cool because it gives you some flexibility. The last thing that you want is your QA lead to go on vacation and then all of your releases stall because the one guy who could approve them is on vacation. So what you can do is you can actually put a group there called QA leads or something like that. Anyone in that group has the authority now to push that release to the next stage. So that's like basically everyone gets a notification. First guy goes in and says, yep, that's good. It goes ahead and moves forward. And we can also go back in and say, I don't have a group, but I have these 5 individuals, and I want one of these 5 to say yes. Our tool is flexible enough to do that. You can also say I want them in order, which means notify the first guy only. If he or she says no, don't worry about notifying anyone else, right? Because they've already gotten a no. We don't need to go and ask anyone else what's going on there. So really flexible in what you can do from the approver aspect. And you can actually have approvers before and after, which I'm not sure it was really clear. Because you specifically asked about pre-approvers, which is great, which is the tool's asking permission to touch your environment. And once you give it, it'll touch your environment. And then it'll stop. Before it goes into the next environment, it can actually have another approver that says, you have to give us approval to leave this environment. So if I'll use the QA lead again as an example. If the QA lead says, yes, you can go into my environment, and then he tests it and finds lots of bugs, you don't want that going to the next environment. So you would also put them as the post approver. And the tool will simply wait for them to finish all their UI testing, all their manual testing, and say, is it good enough? And you can say, nope. And then it'll just kill the release right there. And it won't go into staging, won't go into production or wherever else you want it to go as well. So yeah, I think that's one of the really cool parts about our release management is that ability to orchestrate all the approvals. We have a lot of our companies and our customers are using Octopus Deploy. And someone tweeted at me the other day, oh, that's a real enterprise deployment system. I was like, yeah, you know what? Funny thing is, it's better together. That deployment system works best when it's actually underneath release management, giving you that level of approval that I just gave you, right? So instead of having to choose one or the other, you can actually use them together and get a really, really sophisticated solution where we give you the approvals, we give you the workflow, we give you the traceability, we give you the continuous integration, but you want to do the actual zeros and one copying with the Octopus Deploy, knock yourself out, right? We can intermingle every part of our system. Even though I believe that you should be using one vendor if you can get down to it, if you just insist on using Jenkins for whatever reason, you can actually remove our build system and put Jenkins in its place and still use everything else that I mentioned to you today. Right? So if you already have an investment in Jenkins, don't think, oh my God, I'd love to use team services, but I got to get rid of Jenkins before you do that. No, you don't. You can I actually have a blog post on donovanbrown.com. Type in the word Jenkins, and it's a blog post that says how to replace our build system with Jenkins if you're already using Jenkins. Because I don't want you to believe you have to use it all. Obviously, I want you to, but you don't have to. Just lost some lights over here. Go ahead.
How would you deploy to AWS native PaaS services?
How would I deploy to AWS native PaaS services? I'm going to answer this in a very generic way. Replace AWS with anything. No, literally with anything. I'm not saying with Azure. That should be my answer, but it's not. Replace it with anything that you want. And then my answer will be this. Is there a command line or a REST API that will allow me to achieve whatever goal it is that you want to achieve? If the answer is yes, then the answer is yes. The reason why is because one of the tasks that we have in our toolbox, out of the box, you don't have to install any extension, is one called command line. When I first saw that task, I thought it was the Windows command line. It's not. It is literally any command line, which means bash shell, or if you're on Linux or Mac, or command or power, whatever you want to run, we will run any arbitrary command that you want. So when I was playing with Google, what I did is I installed their tools onto my build agent, which now gave me a collection of command line tools that would allow me to deploy to Google. And all I did is told my build system, at this point, now that I've packaged up my website, go call this command out into Google and give me the status back. So if you can do it from a command line, we already have the task there to go perform against AWS or Google or Bluemix or whatever cloud provider that you want. And also if there's a REST API, because some of them are saying, oh no, we don't have any command line, but we have a REST API you can exploit. Well, then you can write a PowerShell script or a Node.js script that will go call that PowerShell that REST endpoint for you, get back the status and report it as part of your build. So my answer is, show me a command line and I'll show you how to do it in our build and our release system. So that's a generic answer to yes, right? Because I know that they have the tools that we need to be able to perform those. Now, there are also, if you go to our marketplace and you type AWS, there are extensions out there already that are basically making it even easier so that you don't have to write the command line. There's a task that you just configure, and it'll point you to whatever cloud you want to go to. Great question. What else do we have? One more in the back.
So in the automated test card, can you tell it to deploy to the local simulator rather than go out to the test cloud? So a lot of time when you're developing, you don't want it to go out to test cloud. You build it, test it automatically, test it locally, find the problem, rebuild it, and then only when you finish.
If there's a command line or a REST API to that tool that you just described, local or otherwise, the answer is yes. If there's not, then we'd have to go and look at a case-by-case basis on if we can. If we could script it, the answer is yes. Now, I haven't tried that. I know what you're asking is like I have an individual item that I'd like to run automated test on as part of my build that's not in the test cloud. It's just a simulator.
I don't know any dev house that goes every developer build, they test it, test it. It's too expensive.
I know some that are. All right, you don't know that any that are, but I know some that are. That's fine. That's fine. So my answer for you is the same as the answer was for this gentleman here. We'd have to figure out a way to script that, and if I can script it, then I can run it as part of my build.
And I've got one second question as well, which is going on test track, and that is, do we have a timeline yet on when Windows devices will be ready for the test?
Do you know the answer to that?
Soon.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that one either.
I know the specifics, I just can't tell you.
All right.
It is coming.
Yeah, and if you cannot wait.
We've been told for over 12 months.
All right, so this is where I pimp one of my favorite partners, which is Perfecto Mobile, who already has Windows devices and ties into our pipeline just like Xamarin Test Cloud. So if you don't want to wait for us, whatever that date is, go to Perfecto Mobile right now, and you can run exactly the same thing, not only against Android and iOS, but also against Windows phones as well. But I know it's coming. I mean, how can they not? I just don't know when either.
It's an operating system change, so there's some big names of operating system updates that come out
Sure.
in the Windows 10 world, so it's one of those releases that it will enable it and then unlock it and things will magically work.
All right, cool deal. Well, I'm over time, guys, so thank you so much. I want to get out of the way of the next guy. See you later.